Ladies and gentlemen, it's Spoilerin Time. This is where we take all the things we've learned doing the show Cordkillers and apply them to our eyes. In other words, we watch stuff. We watch TV shows, we watch movies, and then we talk about them here, and we get spoilery. So be aware. We will tell you before we spoil something what we're going to spoil. We even have time codes in the show notes and all that. I'm Tom Merritt. Brian Brushwood is here. And Brian, we are in the midst of March Madness.
Yes, it's a July miracle to be. It's March Madness in late June, early July.
It's a march through the summer to determine our next Spoilerin Time anthology watch, our next rewatch. Because we're near the end of Justified now.
Yeah, we are creeping up right at the end. And, of course, it joins the pantheon of great shows like The Wire and The Shield and now Justified. But we got to know what to do next. So we wanted to be democratic, but not too democratic. So what we did was we had you guys make a bunch of choices, and we're going to set up a tournament for our amusement and your entertainment.
So real quickly, we'll take you a tour through the tournament. It's tournament style. If you don't know what that means, like it's head-to-head battles. The winner of each poll after a week moves on to face the winner of another poll until we only have one show left. In the Rabid Fan Regional, it's Hannibal versus Babylon 5. Brian, how do you feel about this matchup?
I feel like one of those is possible. The other is Babylon 5.
Really? The response for Babylon 5 was huge in terms of emails.
Oh, no. I believe a lot of people like Babylon 5. However, if you vote for Babylon 5, it will be the last one we ever do because we'll still be doing it 4 years from now. There's a lot of Babylon 5.
Do multiple, and you could do two a week.
Even
maybe.
some Babylon 5 advocates have admitted in the comments that, but they have to watch season 1. We promise them it gets better. And that's
the thing about the Gear Wars is that they were never really about the gears.
Yeah. So vote Hannibal? I don't know.
Okay,
I mean, it's up to you.
Hannibal also has a limited run that's shorter, which make and also
though some fans argue unfinished.
That could be, and that's going to certainly be a factor on Deadwood. Let me point out also that you can vote for what you think your favorite is, but I somehow take a moment and consider whether or not your favorite will also be a match for this segment. Because if you pick something that's your favorite and it's not a match for a segment, you're going to get to hear us talk a lot about how it's...
You're going to hear our unvarnished opinions about your favorite show.
And it might be for a very long time.
Just we're not trying to talk you out of anything. Just think, does that sound fun to me?
Week
Don't
after
vote
week?
your heart, vote correct.
Yeah. I'm just saying, look, I'm campaigning. I'll make it clear.
Yeah.
I would say my pick is Hannibal between these two.
That would be my pick. Moving on to the Spaceship Regional, Firefly versus Stargate SG-1. By the way, speaking of an unending watch, Stargate SG-1, people are like, yeah, and then after SG-1, you can watch Atlantis and then Universe.
Yep.
Like that could go forever.
I will say, I'll tell you what, we've done a lot of long shows. I am seduced by the shortness, even though I've seen Firefly. It might be fun to revisit it again. Stargate SG-1, I've seen just a few things here or there. It was on a long time.
Think about this.
If it wasn't so many seasons, I might lean in favor of Stargate SG-1 because I loved it, and I'd be really curious to see what you think of it. But any excuse to rewatch Firefly, I'm into.
And if you do Firefly, we can repeat the whole process in 10 weeks.
Well, not going to lie. I like the idea of the tournament enough that I'm excited about another tournament.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you vote Firefly, you're also voting for a revote. You know, it's like voting for Theresa May in the recent UK election.
It's your built-in recall.
So if you have something you're passionate on the other ones, maybe Firefly is your good hedge bet.
Yeah.
So,
then the winners of those two votes will face off in the sci-fi sectional next week. We move down to the period piece sectional. In the fist fight regional, Deadwood versus Peaky Blinders.
I will be fine with either of these because both of them I started and I enjoyed quite a bit. Deadwood, I gave up because it got canceled while I was watching the first season. And I just kind of like, well, I don't want to invest and then not have it pay off or whatever. I don't know. Is Peaky Blinders over?
I was just going to ask, is it done? I don't know if it is or not.
It might just be one of those things you just keep on going forever.
Yeah, I don't know. But we allowed one in that isn't finished yet.
Season 4
possibly.
Season 4 will probably be released in late 2017. So there are 3 seasons now. So you could.
Well, I mean,
once that doesn't mean it will be canceled either.
Yeah, well, once we get caught up, then it just becomes like all the other shows.
BBC
Some of them we fall off watching.
Renewed it for series 4 and 5. So
we genuinely don't want to do a show that's still in production for this, though. So I'm going to lean to Deadwood.
Well, I'm going to say that
like you, I actually enjoy both of these shows and started both of them, but haven't finished them.
Yeah, I would say per the rules, if Peaky Blinders wins, then we're obligated up until we're caught up. At which point we move on to the next tournament.
Then the Ocean Regional is Black Sails versus Terriers.
This is an interesting one.
Did you buy Black Sails? Someone recommended it on the Lookout, and I think you were super into it.
I was into the idea. I never watched it. I also have never watched Terriers. Terriers. Sean Ryan, who did The Shield, did Terriers.
Is that about dogs?
No, it's about cops who hold on to things like terriers. It's
about cops who are dogs, like in Angie Tribeca.
Terriers, I hear from everyone this Firefly level of rage that it didn't get a second season. Like it's
my only problem with Terriers is it's cops.
There is that.
But it's only 13 episodes.
I know it's comedy cops this time, right? We've done realistic cops and then like dramatically flawed cops and country cops. Now we do funny cops.
Yeah, 8.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
It's probably really good. I'm not gonna lie. I would vote Black Sails if I had to vote.
But Terriers is short. Terriers cut off.
Terriers has the same thing as Firefly, right?
Yeah. So Terriers is another hedge.
So go to patreon.com/Cordkillers. Get your votes in.
Where do you have to be logged in? Do you have to have an account?
I think you might have to be logged in. You don't have to be a patron. It's open to the public on these posts, but you may have to log in. Just go to patreon.com/Cordkillers. You'll see the link to the voting feed, and it's super fast. You can just doot and get your votes in.
And now,
there it is. Yeah,
we must check in on the movie draft. Not gonna lie, Brian, I'm feeling pretty good at $318 million for Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Look, you nailed it.
Because it's still making money.
It's not only that, $318 million. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're about to catch up to Guardians of the Galaxy money.
It's getting there. It's getting close.
That you won hard. You won so hard.
Wonder Woman is the best buy in the draft so far.
Yeah, and well earned, well deserved. Wow.
I do think it's down to math. Spider-Man: Homecoming and War for Planet of the Apes are both looking strong. Spider-Man's getting good early buzz. War is getting people saying it's the best movie of the year.
War of the Planet
of the Apes. And Big and Tall has both of them.
I believe it. I think that Big and Tall will have an astonishing. I mean, Big and Tall almost certainly will be the second place winners. They're going to rocket right past Night Attack.
They need $464 million to catch me. They only have 2 movies left. So they have to average $230 million for those. And that doesn't account for Atomic Blonde, which is my team's last one.
Yeah, I think it's looking really, really good for you. So now it's a question of whether or not Night Attack can even hold on to second place, which I'm not optimistic on. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spider-Man comes out July 7th. War for the Planet of the Apes comes out July 14th. So by July 21st, we should have an idea of what the pace is looking at, like whether this is going to be a race or not.
And on the Chat Realm League, we still have a 2-way tie with Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain Underpants, and Wonder Woman, both Quantum Feline and Toner Boner.
Is that why you brought this up so you can say Toner Boner?
No, I just painted myself into a corner on that one. They're both tied for number 1. This will be the first time we've ever had a tied number 1 winner, unless we see some surprises come from behind, which is entirely possible.
Well, as far as the chat realm goes, Spider-Man: Homecoming and War for the Planet of the Apes will vault some people back up into the top, right?
Yeah.
So, I can't tell if there's anybody with Guardians and Spider-Man from this list. They may just be off the top.
Yeah, we'll see, though. But anyway, thanks to everyone who's been participating, and please continue to do so.
Eileen's getting into. I was talking to her about the winter movie draft, and she was already looking at what's coming out, and like, well, because it would have been good to have Baby Driver in the summer draft. So you want to try to avoid that. She's
ready, man.
Yeah.
She's taking her job serious.
All right, let's start off by talking about the season premiere of Preacher. Now, this will be a little odd because they're doing back-to-back Sunday night premiere and then Monday night Preacher. So we're not talking about episode 2 of Preacher because we haven't seen it yet, because as of this recording, it hasn't aired yet. We're just talking about Sunday night's episode, which I loved. I had a blast with that episode. Like, I am so glad they are on a road trip now.
Yeah, Bonnie, I paused. I was like, "Hey, we're gonna watch what?" She was like, "You know what? It's just too much for me. Too much of the blood and gross stuff." And I was like, "No, it's not that bad. It's funny." And then I started watching last night. I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I don't think Bonnie will want."
They're using human intestines to siphon. Okay.
They do a fantastic job of implying the things that maybe they can't do on television. I don't know that
they can't even do on AMC. Yeah.
Stylistically, I love the fact that it continues to the moment you had a 70s style cop road chase, they switched to that color palette and that film look and the film grain and the soundtrack and everything. It was great. It's a lot of fun. I like the fact that we're not wasting any time. It's like the fact that they introduce, this is the saint of killers, and he's after them, and they're looking for God. God apparently loves jazz, and it's great. It's great. My only complaint about the first episode is that it very abruptly ends. It's very clearly a 2-hour movie broken into 2 episodes.
No, that would be my complaint too. Is I'm like, really? Okay, so I mean, I guess I only have to wait till tomorrow, but I wish I didn't have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
I did like the pace of it up to that, though. And I like that we don't spend a whole lot of time. I guess it kind of not bugged me, but the idea that Mike, the preacher, would kill himself rather than give up the location of Preacher is certainly a very bold act on his part. Like, I didn't get the idea that he didn't have anything to live for. Well, but I guess he figures he's going to get killed either way, right?
I think it would have been nice if we knew a little bit more about him so we could understand beforehand that he's the kind of guy who might do this. But instead, it's after he's dead that we're like, oh, I guess he's the kind of guy who would rather kill himself than would have been, more impactful otherwise. But, it was
That's
fine.
That's the tiniest thing, though.
Yeah, as far as setting up the severity of the Saint of Killers as a bad guy, I'm down for that.
Speaking of killers, shall we move along? I know we're not saying a lot about Preacher, but at this point it's like, yeah, fun ride. Enjoyed being in the car with those guys, right? Like,
yep.
That's pretty much all there is to say. Let's go to Fargo. The last few episodes of season 3 were the episodes that you needed to catch up on, and you have caught up on all of them. You got all the way to the finale.
Yeah. We've talked earlier about how this struck me as the farthest deviation from the traditional, I say traditional, in something. So first season of Fargo, we saw pretty much the movie Fargo in TV form, right? Whoopsie killing escalates, spirals out of control, gets worse. Same thing, second season, saw pretty much the same thing, only in the 1970s, which was a nice twist. Third season, we saw weird family drama, we saw tensions building. We did have a murder, but it wasn't a big, impactful deal, and you thought you were on one route, but instead it deviated in such delightful and strange ways. On paper, I think I would have disliked this season's... Okay, let me put it this way. This is weird coming from me, the guy who hated the UFOs in season 2. I thought it was too much, too weird, didn't have me along for the ride. All of the weird stuff in this one had me along for the ride. That bowling alley as afterlife, that bowling alley as purgatory, where they exactly mimic the shot of revealing the stranger in The Big Lebowski, and they do it twice just to make it really clear what they're doing, and the strangeness of I don't know, and that dude pretty much making it clear that this guy's dead and going to hell. It was just great. I loved.
Well, and as a Twin Peaks fan, having Ray Wise play that part was just a little extra sauce for the goose there, because he's Laura Palmer's dad in Twin Peaks, and I will not say anything else, but if you watch Twin Peaks, you know what flavor that gives.
Yeah,
that person.
I also found myself genuinely guessing where stuff was going to head because this is a show that makes it clear that good guys don't always win and so on. I think Varga is one of the most amazing villains. Like his unflappable calm in the face of the most outrageous disaster. Like he just had this seductive ability to make me believe, yeah, it is nothing to worry about. It's going to be fine. It's like a magic power. It's just like that moment when he's having the face off with Ray's widow girlfriend. And she's all like, well, it's not like you're not sticking out or it's like, you're not exactly forgettable in that outfit. He's like, am I not really? And then just the wide shot and you see how many guys in trench coats there are. And you realize that they're both playing a game. It's totally unrealistic that all of a sudden this washout parolee becomes this incredible criminal mastermind, but I went along for the ride and loved all of it.
But, and this is the thing I couldn't believe because you stopped watching right as Mr. Wrench shows up.
Is that, which one is
season 1? He's the deaf brother from season 1.
Okay, what's funny is I felt the familiarity of it, and I guess I thought, oh, that must be just a common archetype, the big deaf bruiser badass. I completely didn't put together that we'd already met this character from the first season, and that's the same one.
That's what actually helps me over that hump of like, wait a minute, when did she get so good? Is like they've built her up as strategic, right? And then you put Mr. Wrench muscle behind it and know-how. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, okay, maybe there's a world in which I could be convinced that those two could pull it off.
Yeah. Well, and plus also, I like the fact that we didn't have to watch the coming to understand each other that the two of them had. Just the next time we see them, they're Han and Chewbacca, Yeah. And I love how different everything was. I love the fact that this, when we've talked about it before, the one-off episode of the LA detective story, and then, the one-off episode of being hunted in the woods and how they deal with that. I loved the creepy designs on everything. I loved the revenge story that it became. And ultimately, even that final little cameo appearance as they finish up the last loose end of the whole thing. Like, there's only one character we truly love this whole story long, and that's Carrie Coon, and she's the only one that really does turn all right. I guess her and Varga.
Yeah, well, and that is really the big question of this season that I've seen differing views on, which is they decided to have Carrie Coon and Varga's character each state how this is going to turn out and then turn off the camera.
I love that. I loved it. I loved it on Inception. I loved it in this. I thought that the story was complete for sure.
Well, and I would be fine with them showing me which of them is right. But I'm also fine, and I think a little more fine with them leaving it up to me. Because, yeah, I understand the critics who were saying, like, that's a cop-out, tell me what happened. I want to know what really happened, even though it's fiction. I'm like, well, this lets me decide.
Tondagasa nails it in the chat. He says, they show you how the world worked and then let you decide. Because you're right.
Yeah.
Whichever way you decide, you will be able to point to enough of the rules of the game that we've seen thus far. And one thing we've seen thus far is that, Varga's immortal. He's the devil. And
he plans for everything.
Yeah. And I can't say.
And Gloria Burgle, however, always surprises her enemies. Always has a move they didn't expect, always finds another way. So I have not even let myself decide how this ended. I've held the ending in superposition in my mind.
And what's funny is normally you want to resolve that superposition, but I'm totally fine. Like, it's done. Like, that's great. I would be equally happily either way. And if you told me for a fact, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. And that's it.
I've imagined both of them. I've imagined VM Varga walking away and Gloria Burgle once again realizing that what she told her son about the way the world works is in fact the way the world works.
But you know what? Even if Varga leaves the room in that moment, I just picture Burgle just kind of, nodding with a small beatific grin, like, okay, not today, but someday.
We'll eventually get it, right?
Yeah.
And then also I've imagined it working out the way Burgle said it would, with him getting hauled away in cuffs And that same beatific smile again.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Varga's just like, oh, well, so that's whatever, I know where I end up, It's
Yeah.
no big deal. I think that's
Exactly.
why is they do a great job of, it's you're not going to get one or the other. I like the fact that they wrote in I'm glad that they acknowledged the short story with the little animated 15-minute, the I Can Help robot and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that it tied in, and she explained, how none of these things work for her, or notice her or whatever. By the way, I don't know if I commented on the time, but I'm almost certain that animated vignette of the I Can Help robot, I didn't see anything in the credits. It doesn't mention who the narrator is, but I'm almost certain that's Sigourney Weaver. Did I tell you this before?
I think we talked about that
Okay, great.
after we watched that episode, yeah.
But at any rate, fantastic season. My favorite of the bunch, although strangely not the one I would tell people to jump in on first.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I've felt like you could watch season 2 before season 1 and just get a different experience, and it would be fine. I don't think you could watch season 3 before seasons 1 or 2, though.
I think you could watch them independent of either one and have it be just fine. It's not like the crossovers are so important that you don't understand the nature of a good nested story.
But I would start with either 2 or 1.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with whatever will get people to watch more Fargo because that was great.
Right.
That was great.
Let's talk about Better Call Saul, which frankly, a week on, all I think about when I think about this episode is the flames at the end.
Yeah, let's start with that scene. I, at first, the moment it was over, I thought it was very obvious that we just saw the death of Chuck.
Right.
Since I've had a few days to think about it, I realized that there's zero chance that Chuck is dead because they would not give him an off-screen death. And as I was describing to Bryce, it reminded me of when I had seen the Lord of the Rings movie and hadn't read the books. I was like, man, that was really bad storytelling that they gave such a short eulogy to, Gandalf. He was a major character through the whole movie. And they just sort of,
right.
They kind of cry and then walk off. That sucked. And then later you realize, because he's not dead. Same thing on this. Like, that's kind of a, for as much of a formidable, terrible person as Chuck is, to just have an off screen of the place burning. Which makes me feel like there's no way. One
of the things that they've been brilliant at is leading you to believe, hey, Kim Wexler will never go along with Jimmy's questionable ethics until she excuses it, until she does, until she goes along with it. And I think they're pulling the same trick with Chuck, which is every time you think Chuck's down, Chuck figures out a way to get back up. And this is the downest he's been, surrounded by flames and about to be incinerated. And I don't think Chuck's done. And where we're going to head if he's not dead is he's going to be in the hospital. It's going to be clear that he is mentally incompetent, and he's going to find a way to cast doubt upon that. He's going to find a way to fight back from that and rise up once again without Jimmy's help and keeping Jimmy out. And now he's fighting, Hamlin, I guess, no McGill, against his partnership. That
scene was crushing.
The scene where he's retired. Not retiring, but retired.
When Hamlin gives him that wolf's grin in front of anyone and the wild eyes saying, like, you got something you want to say? And he just knows he's been bested. That was harsh.
Yeah. And he has to smile and, like, pretend to, say goodbye as he walks out. Oh,
yeah.
And that actually fed into prior to the fire, the scene of him trying to find what is causing the electricity to continue to move, right? So you see him collapse from the height of being able to be around electricity to because of this setback. He's falling back into his illness, and he needs to stop all the electricity, and it's still moving a little bit, and he can't figure out. And really, I mean, the reasonable thing would be like have the electricity shut off, and it will stop. But he doesn't want to wait, and the fact that he is so beaten and depressed that he will tear his home apart disturbed me more than any blood we saw in Fargo or American Gods. That curdled my blood, seeing someone so unaware of just how crazy they are in what they are doing and the damage that they're doing to their home and themselves, man, that disturbed me in a good storytelling way, but it was really hard to watch for me.
Yeah, that was his terrier refusing to let go moment. That was the equivalent of Walter White losing his mind over the fly in his meth lab, you know?
Yeah.
But
there was something about like just damaging the home, and you're like, look, and I don't know if it's just me, but I put myself in his head and I feel like I know I shouldn't be doing this, and I know it's irreparable what I'm doing, but I can't stop.
It's picking at a scab. It's picking at
it's picking at a scab until it's bloody and infected, and you've caused real like nerve damage.
Right, and then you kick over a lantern, and then
yeah.
Hey, so real quick, you had mentioned real quick that Kim would never go along with Jimmy's plans or whatever. There's a brief moment when Jimmy is apparently collaborating with her on what manipulative scheme he should do to make things better, to get this girl, to be friends. So apparently he had shared to the extent of his manipulation. And I did love the fact that he eventually did fall on his sword. It was the least pleasant, but the only effective way to get his friend in the good graces of all her neighbors and so on. I thought that was a fine but saccharine aspect to Jimmy, because it's not like we suddenly think Jimmy's redeemed or that he's even good. We still know he's weak, and we still know that all things being equal, he'd love to have the $3 million or $1 million and also figure out a way to talk the lady in or whatever and keep his reputation.
Well, I don't think it shows that. I don't think it's meant to show that Jimmy is good. I think we all know Jimmy isn't. And this is one of the great things about Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. People aren't good or evil. And people are more complex and have more complex flaws than good or evil. And Jimmy is weak. You nailed it. Like that's what this shows. And in the end, he is weak enough that he won't just be like, screw her. So some old lady's upset, right? He feels bad and he wants to make it good. And I think that's to his credit. At the same time, you're right. It doesn't make up for what he did. But I think that is a more complex and realistic picture of a person who's like, oh man, it's almost in a similar way to what Chuck did, right? Like I got out of hand and I damaged some stuff. Let me see if I can plaster it over.
Right. Other elements, we of course see Kim and her recovery, where all of a sudden the tables are turned. All of a sudden, the powerful is weak and the weak is powerful. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. They do just a great job on the design and makeup and all this stuff. I thought she looked very believably in a car wreck. Recently.
Yeah, wrecked. And finally, they've been showing us her overworking. And this is kind of what happens, is that at some point you just break and you're like, you know what? No, I'm not doing any work. I'm going to Blockbuster because it's a period piece and I'm going to rent a bunch of movies.
Yep.
I'm just going to sit and watch. And again, and actually I'm realizing more and more how much this is Kim's moment of, I'm going to do some damage to myself because I wasn't self-aware and I got in a car wreck. And now I'm gonna recover by just not working. And they're in a really bad place, both of those. They have no money. They have no prospects of money. They can't afford their office anymore. And Kim is just gonna sit on the couch and watch movies. And Jimmy doesn't have a way to make money, and he just gave up his $3 million. Like, where do they go from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the only other element is we got the moment that we all saw coming a million miles away of Hector Salamanca finally having his episode. What's interesting is everybody's so guarded and calculated in all of their moves that even as Gus dives to be a hero and start administering CPR and taking a leadership role, part of me can't figure out if he's doing it because that is the classy right thing to do or because this is the way he wants to be seen, because that's what he needs to look like he's done.
I mean, some people would argue there's no difference between those two.
That's true. I mean, that's a fairly universal question we ask about people.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what makes these characters so interesting, is that you don't know really why. And maybe he doesn't even know for sure which of those is true. And it also gave Nacho the chance to make the faked pills disappear.
Yeah, which I'm surprised they didn't do something more with that. That was a fairly significant plot setup to say, hey, make sure you switch him back. And, to just realize, nope, he was left with plenty of time to clean them all up, and he did.
Well, he cleans up the fake ones, but he doesn't switch them back.
Oh, I'm almost certain he did.
Did he? Okay.
I remember him, and he definitely made a point to keep the original pills when he made the swap.
Yeah. No, I know, but I don't remember seeing him put the original pills in Hector's pocket or anything.
I don't know if he
well,
put it in the
no.
pocket.
There is a scene at the end. They're
he
like,
gave it to the medic.
Yeah, correct. He's like, he takes these.
All right, never
so
mind.
I'm going to guess that there's no way he just intentionally handed them the placebo pills.
No, or forgot or handed the wrong ones.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to Justified, episode 11 of season 6. Do we want to talk about this email, or do we want to talk about the episode first?
Let's do the email.
We got an email from Josh. Says, I was one of many fans of Justified when it was airing, followed it religiously, never went more than a few days without after its airing to watch it. I was delighted to hear you guys were watching the show and reviewing it as part of Spoilerin Time. Decided to use this as an opportunity to rewatch it along with you guys, listen to your thoughts and dissection of the show, and use it as an opportunity to really dive into the nuance. I'm one of those viewers that even if I'm watching a show or movie, I will miss the deeper meanings, the hidden messages, and the symbolism that get added to the show. I don't know why, but I either have to be really focusing on one aspect, the action, the storytelling, the character interactions, to not see the whole picture at times. This causes me to miss a lot of things. For example, the Choo Choo Death episode where he tries to kill himself through the train. It wasn't until my second viewing that I realized the irony in that scene. He's named Choo Choo. He gets killed by a train. Anyways, after using your podcast to really dive deep into Justified, I've come to the conclusion that the show is just not that great. It's just okay. So as one of those rabid fans that once was, I don't blame anyone for not liking this show. There is and was much better out there. I don't know what I was thinking that this show lived up to the hype of other shows. So all that said, a show that might pique your interest for watching that I've gone back and rewatched and still holds up really well is Jericho, available on Netflix. It's a quick watch, etc. And really entertaining and a good departure from shows like The Wire, Sons of Anarchy, and Justified. I would also absolutely love to hear your weekly reviews of that show. Unfortunately, Jericho, not this time, didn't make it into the tournament, but we'll keep that in mind, Josh. But interesting, I think this is incredibly interesting, Brian, that he's come around to your way of thinking on Justified, even though it was not the way he thought the first time through.
Well, and, I think of this nowadays as the Phantom Menace effect. The Phantom Menace has been around long enough that there's an entire generation of kids that grew up, and they know they're not, that Phantom Menace was a bad movie, just like I know that Tron was a bad movie, but I will always deeply love Tron, period, right? That's how they are for the Phantom Menace, and I think that at the time, the electricity of week over week, wondering where this is going to go, probably guided away because the performances are fantastic, the dialogue is fantastic, and the action is, they got some good set pieces or whatever. But we are having a fundamentally different experience watching everything through, looking through, for a through thread that takes us through a beginning, middle, and end of a single story, and seeing that that's fine. It could be a loosey-goosey show with a lot of things a lot of people like, and that still means, I'm happy that we're watching it. But it did, I will say, I felt slightly, what's the word? Vindicated. Like I said, I had a reason for.
Like there was validity. You were validated.
Yes, I felt
Valified?
Yeah, but it felt good to hear somebody else, at least if not agree wholeheartedly, that at least acknowledge that I'm not insane in this point.
No, and this is the thing which I really wish we could get past in not this show, in all of our discussions everywhere on the internet about different things, is you're not wrong for not liking something. You're not wrong for liking something. Everybody brings a different experience. And what we're getting, which I think is incredibly important from Josh here, is like, dude, in 2009, before I had watched all of the shows that came out after 2009, before I had had all the experiences that I, as Josh, had between 2009 and 2017, I liked Justified. Now that I've gone back and rewatched it as a person with different experiences, having watched different shows, seeing different plots, thinking about things in a different way, I don't like it as much.
Well, and now keep in mind, he hasn't said like it as much. He's saying like it's not
good.
as
Yeah,
good.
no, he doesn't like it. And that's fine too. Like there's not a wrong or a right answer. When you say The Phantom Menace is a bad movie, you mean that. And when I am asked, is Phantom Menace a good movie? I'll say, no, I agree with Brian. It's a bad movie. But maybe there's somebody who's like, no, the things that are bad with it don't bother me, and I love it, and it's not just nostalgia. And to them, that's fine. There's not an objective truth in that.
That's
like
interesting.
We can point to all the flaws all day long, and they may say, yeah, but those flaws don't bother me, because we all bring different experiences and different priorities and different expectations into every piece of media we consume.
This is interesting. You just dropped a trail of breadcrumbs that made me come to a realization that I think you and I might disagree on something. Each time, like from what you said, it sounded like good and like are synonymous with each other.
No, that was just sloppy phrasing.
Okay, because to me the interesting thing is I can acknowledge that like a movie is objectively bad, and I have no problems objectively saying that Tron is not a very good movie.
That's just me trying to keep the rhetoric simple.
Sure.
Yes, you can like a bad movie and you can hate a good movie.
Right.
That you think is good and that you think are bad. What I'm trying to say is the opinions, what causes you to like a movie or to evaluate it as good or bad, are not justifiable. Yeah. Like they're your opinions, and you can justify them. You can come up with your reasons, and they can be valid reasons, but someone can have an opposite opinion from you and also be perfectly justified, because these are subjective matters that and I keep saying this over and over, but you bring your own experiences into them. And if you don't have the same experience as someone else, you're experiencing an entirely different story than they are.
Yeah. Well, regardless, all that sets the stage for what I thought was, on balance, a really good episode of the show. I liked the fact that the scope was, it was a manhunt episode. We got some satisfying surprises along the way. We see... I don't know.
Art comes back. Are you happy to see Art back in charge?
He's no longer the ghost of Art. It's actual Art. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I'm a little tired of the circa second season accusations that Raylan is corrupt or whatever. Like we.
Well, and you know what? I am too. But what I like about this episode actually applies to that plot line, which is this episode simplified things. Ava's on the run. They need to catch her. And Raylan's under suspicion for helping her.
Yeah.
Boom. Right? There's not a lot of like, well, maybe Raylan will get caught, or maybe they think it's this. No, it's all above board now. And we killed off Catherine. And so now Avery has a very clear road ahead for him.
How did you feel about
I don't know what he's going to do, but it's very like you don't have to worry about, can I trust her? Should I marry? No, she's dead. So now your options are simplified. Like everything got simplified.
There was a couple of really great moments. I rather liked the strange sentiment that Catherine said of like, hey, so we love each other, but don't trust each other. Let's just be like every other married couple what that's true of. And I thought that was so brash that I rather enjoyed that. The Mikey bodyguard situation, where he pulls a Darth Vader and he was like, no, and throws Catherine over the side to save Wynn Duffy. That was all.
I thought him handing the handcuff to Wynn as he drew his last breath was a little much.
Yeah. I don't. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. I did like the almost Hitchcockian moment at the end where Ava goes through hell and compromises everything and gets to the one moment where, it's all up to this one person to get them out, and they discover, am I remembering right? He had like died there a long time ago, and they came upon just his rotting corpse.
Oh, it was disgusting. I had to actually go back and pause and look, because I was like, man, they didn't hang on that shot for very long, and they did a lot of work on makeup to make that corpse look good.
Well, I think because like there's a difference between showing a person getting killed and a rotting corpse.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely. Yeah, I feel better about season 6 now as we head into the final 2 episodes of the entire series. That this is now just a chase. It's Boyd and Raylan after Ava, and they're both being chased by the law. Avery is also trying to do something. What is Avery trying to do? I guess is maybe a little fuzzier.
Yeah. And then also we've got the random Loretta thing. I think that they're just setting up this Loretta side thing so they can all end up at the same place at the same time.
Yeah. And Loretta will be in peril, and Raylan will have to make a choice.
Right. So we'll see. Yeah. But anyway, enjoying it. It's still a good show.
What do you think chances are we see Winona again? Because we spent a fair bit of time earlier this season with Winona coming to peace with Raylan, saying, "I'll move back." And I feel like we kind of have to pay off on that at some point.
I feel like she'll show up randomly just in time to watch Raylan die. Oh, I can't.
No, yeah, right. It'll be either he dies and she shows up right then, or he finally gets out of the fire, and everything gets resolved and he's reinstated, and that's the final scene is her arriving with the baby and like, okay, I'm ready to move in.
And she's all like, "Oh, Raylan, you always were a complicated, selfish, strange man."
Well, I guess you're right, Winona.
Turns out we're exactly word for word predicting the end before we've seen it.
I am enjoying it though. I'm back to full on unapologetically enjoying it.
And along that lines, I'm glad to have the clarity of like, oh, good, no more ambiguity. Boyd is the devil. He's Varga. He's unflappable. He's unbustable. He'll turn on anyone. He I loved him just dressing up as the cop in that moment. You're like, in all the confusion. What confusion?
Oh right, yeah, no, just flat out execution style on Earl. Yeah. May he rest in peace. We've got evil Boyd, we've got good but doubted Raylan, slightly evil Avery, and Art.
Yeah, and everyone else has been swept off the board. Or Ava. Ava is the Dark Queen.
Yeah, and they're all in pursuit of Ava. Everybody. Yeah. Well, I guess Avery isn't really in pursuit of Ava, but everybody else is. Interesting that Avery not in pursuit of Ava.
No, Tom, it's not interesting. That would be a weird thing.
It is. It's probably the most interesting part of the Avery storyline for me right now. Hey, thanks everybody for watching or listening or just pretending that you heard us. Any way you consume the show is great. Get over there and vote at patreon.com/Cordkillers and let us know what you would like to rip apart next. We'll talk to you later.
Please don't be mad.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.